Hey, nice to see you here today with another tutorial on how to shoot better GoPro footage. And in this video I don't want to focus only on the GoPro Hero 7, but instead I want to give you some more general tips that you can apply to every GoPro out there, probably also in the future, so keep watching. GoPros are definitely some of the most versatile and easy to use cameras on the market, so it's no wonder that people don't just use them for action sports but also for travel videography and so on. But you're a bit limited with a GoPro simply because it only has a wide angle lens. And that's what I want to focus on today mostly. I want to give you some tips on how to get the best shots with wide angle lenses. And you probably never heard about those tips on other YouTube channels, so that could be quite interesting for you. Apart from that, when you're new to this channel, my name is Pascal, I'm a travel videographer, and so I teach you travel videography every Sunday. So if you're interested in that, then don't forget to hit the subscribe and notifications button right now to don't miss out my other videos. So let's get started with the tips, and my first tip here is that you should understand the distortion of the wide angle lens and where and how it happens, because then you can adjust your framing a little bit so that it looks better. And that's especially important for video, because when you shoot in 4K you can only shoot wide angle. If you don't shoot in 4K you can choose linear if you want to, but I personally don't like linear too much because it sometimes looks a bit stretched on the edges and so on. It doesn't look beautiful for me, so I prefer to shoot in 4K and in wide. So let's watch some footage of the GoPro. In the clips that I show here right now you can clearly see that the distortion mostly happens at the edges, like at the very top, very bottom, left, right. That happens more. So if you keep your main subject a bit more in the middle, or the more you keep it in the middle, the less distortion you can see on your main subject. And it's also important when you have straight lines, like maybe a horizon or so on over the ocean in your shot, because when you have it more up or down, then the distortion becomes pretty visible. But if you have it perfectly in the middle, then you can't really see that, even if there is distortion. Of course, the same counts for vertical lines. If you have maybe something like a tree or anything like that, and you could easily notice that, or when you're in the city, for example, there are a lot of straight lines from the building in the vertical axis, so that can be a problem. And you should always make sure that these lines are as much in the middle or in the center as possible, because then the distortion is not that visible. And this distortion, like I mentioned before, is especially a problem when you shoot video, because when you move your GoPro to the left and right or up and down, then it becomes very obvious, because the transition also like moves a bit, like it changes the style of the transition, and that doesn't look good at all. It doesn't look professional and so on. So what you can do to avoid that is simply to don't make these movements, and instead simply move your GoPro forward or backwards, like walk or anything like that, because that actually looks quite nice. Like the distortion of the lens, the wide angle lens, actually makes forwards and backwards movements more visible, and that's pretty interesting. That is actually the same on drones. For example, when you have the Mavic 2 Zoom or Mavic 2 Pro, then you always can choose between a cropped or zoomed in mode and a wide angle mode. And there, when you fly through some trees or anything like that, then you always want to shoot wide angle, because that makes this movement a lot more visible. So that counts exactly the same for the GoPro. Just when you have problems with such lines, horizon or anything like that, it looks distorted when you move it in either up and down or left to right, then simply change your movement, move a bit forward or backward. That makes the shot interesting. You have movement in it, but you don't make the distortion so visible. Of course, what you can also do to fix the distortion in video, not really fix it, but at least make it less visible, is that you add cinematic bars, or you simply use an aspect ratio of 21:9, because that's more wide angle. So you basically cut off the top and the bottom of the frame, and because there's a lot of distortion, the distortion is automatically less visible. That's actually the reason why the GoPro Hero 7 cinematic video that I published a few months ago, a lot of people asked there in the comments why it doesn't really look like GoPro, like so wide angle and fisheye effect and so on. And yeah, I actually did not use any plugins or so on to solve the wide angle look. The only thing that I did was to add cinematic bars, and that automatically makes it look totally different. So you can actually solve a lot by that. So always use cinematic bars when you want to get a like cinematic or good looking GoPro video. At least for travel videos, and other videos it would probably look weird. But of course you can also use some plugins to fix the distortion in post, but it's always a loss of quality. So I would only recommend doing that when it's absolutely necessary, because the shot just doesn't look good because of the distortion. So it's good to have such plugins, but don't use them too much. And the second tip is that you should actually frame your shot in a way that the distortion is less visible. So you usually have a main subject in your shot, like maybe your girlfriend at the beach or whatever. And of course, if you have the main subject always in the very center where the less distortion is, then it doesn't look that good in the overall video, because then every shot looks more or less the same. And you also want to use the rule of thirds. Sometimes you probably heard about that in other videos, that when you put your main subject more in like 1/3 area to the left or right, then it looks a bit better, more cinematic. But of course the problem is when you move it too far to the left or right, that you see the distortion more, right? So just think about that, watch a bit on your screen. When it starts, the distortion becomes too visible, just play a bit around with it, but generally it's better to be a little bit more to the center, then it becomes less visible. And what you can also do to make it easier to frame your shot without making the distortion too visible is simply that you put your main subject a bit farther away than you would probably do usually, because the closer it is to the GoPro, the more the distortion becomes visible. You can easily test it out, just get some shots of someone and then go very close and go a bit farther away, maybe 3, 4, 5 meters, and you will definitely see that the distortion is by far less noticeable when the person or whatever you film is 5 meters away than when you go like 1 meter closer, so on. So keep that in mind, always play a bit around with the distance to the main subject and you probably can get better results. And for the third tip, I have to say that the video until now sounded a bit negative so far, like against GoPro you only have this one look and so on, that doesn't look that nice. But it's actually also very good to have this wide angle look, because you can do a lot with it and it offers you a lot of flexibility. And that's what the GoPro is made for. It's there to cover unique angles. And that's my third tip here. You should use the GoPro a lot to cover unique angles. It's originally made for action sports, like you mount it on your surfboard or your snowboard or whatever, and then of course you need this wide angle lens to still see you, right? And that's what it's made for. It's a unique perspective when you mount it on your board. And you can use the same in travel videography. Just maybe you go for a hike, just put your GoPro somewhere, just use a small tripod or whatever, or just put it somewhere without a tripod. I actually do that a lot because I don't always have a tripod with me. And then you can capture a lot of great footage, because maybe you still see some stones in the foreground, but you can still see everything from you in the background. So that can actually look very nice and make your video very different. So definitely my third tip here is to simply use the GoPro more for some unique shot instead of only focusing on getting the most cinematic shots, because that at the end makes the video more interesting. And of course, when you do that, you can see the distortion a lot more than you would see usually, but that's not really a problem because it's a unique angle, and in that case people accept that it looks a bit distorted or not natural, and people actually like that in that case because it's unique, it's like something different, and then you don't have to stick to the rules. So definitely do it. And this third tip also leads us to the next tip, and that is that you should use your GoPro more for storytelling instead of just focusing on getting the most cinematic shot. How do I mean that? The GoPro is a great camera because it's extremely small. You can just take it out of your pocket, you press one button, you point it wherever something is happening and you get the shot. And this is amazing because it makes it so quick and easy that there is absolutely no excuse anymore to don't capture something that creates a story in your travel video. So I, for example, used that recently. I've been in Sicily, you probably know when you follow my channel for a while, and I am setting up a new brand right now where I want to focus mostly on high quality travel videos. It's called Borderless Memories, and the Sicily video will be the video that comes first on that new YouTube channel. This brand will also have a YouTube channel, and I had the problem there because it was pretty hard to make a story out of all those clips. So I first started the video by having a lot of clips of the city Palermo where I stayed, and then in the video I wanted to move a bit forward, like I wanted to give it a transition from the city life to the nature to see some more of the island. And what I simply did there, I simply got some shots of with my GoPro, how I entered my car, and then I put my GoPro somewhere where I was hiking so that you all can only see my shoes, like me walking there. And that makes it interesting because I just put it this 4 or 5 shots, I think, in the middle of the video. And this is like a transition. You're in city life, then you throw your bag in the car, you enter the car, and then you see someone hiking, or at least you see his foot hiking, but you don't see exactly what's happening. And then the next part of the video comes, like you see some beautiful landscapes and so on. So this is a bit of storytelling actually, and I want you to use your GoPro more for that, because that really makes your travel videos more interesting. And it looks a bit amateurish sometimes, because for example what I did there, I simply held my GoPro like that while I was dropping my bag in the car and so on. But in that case, it's just about storytelling. It's not about having the most professional look or whatever. And that's what the GoPro is perfect for. So use it more for that, and then maybe create a mixture of such shots in your travel videos. Like you have some parts where it's more about the story, where you have some more amateurish GoPro shots, and then you also have some more like cinematic parts of your video where you really make the GoPro footage beautiful and it's moving awesome and so on. So just put a bit of variety in it, tell a story, and that will make your travel videos a lot better. And of course, what you should also do to make your travel videos better in the long term is to subscribe to my channel now, because I publish one video every Sunday, and I also have a lot of other tutorials out there, both for GoPro but also for other cameras and general filmmaking tips that really can help you to improve your travel videos. So check them out as well. And for the GoPro tutorials, I actually have one playlist where you can find all of them, so check it out as well. And of course, if you liked that video, then don't forget to leave me a thumbs up, because that really helps a lot to push this video a little bit, to bring those tips out. And of course, if you have any questions or whatever, feel free to leave a comment. I give my very best to answer every comment. So, and that's it for today. I hope I could help you a little bit, and see you next Sunday.